For 32 years, they were British television's most reliable double act. Breakfast sofas, red carpets, million-pound contracts. The public saw warmth. The public saw teamwork. But behind the cameras, a different story was being written in silence. Now, at 66, with a chronic pain condition that leaves him housebound for days, Eamonn Holmes has finally opened his mouth. And what he just revealed about Ruth Langsford isn't a divorce detail or a cheating rumor. It's something far worse. Something that challenges everything you thought you knew about their final year together. May 2024. A private hospital room in Surrey. The television is on, but Eamonn Holmes isn't watching. He just came out of 7-hour spinal surgery. The third one in 18 months. The doctors told him he would walk again, eventually. But they didn't say when. And they didn't say how much it would cost him beyond the hospital bills. Here's what the tabloids won't tell you. 3 months before that surgery, Holmes fell on set. Not once. 3 times. The first time he laughed it off. The second time, the floor manager helped him up. The third time, January 2024, live broadcast, he stayed down for 11 seconds. The cameras kept rolling. That's how television works. But behind the cameras, ITV was already making calculations. Leaked internal memos obtained by The Sun reveal that after that third fall, the network quietly reduced Holmes' on-set insurance coverage by 40%. The official reason? Pre-existing mobility concerns. The real reason? Actuaries ran the numbers. A 65-year-old presenter with a deteriorating spine is a liability, not a person, a line item. Holmes didn't know about the insurance change until after the surgery. He found out when a hospital administrator asked for his personal credit card for a procedure ITV had always covered. That was the first crack. Now here is where the story flips direction. Most outlets want you to believe Ruth Langsford left because of the wheelchair, because caregiving is hard, because she couldn't handle the weight of his decline. Holmes says that is not true. He says she left because of what he said from that wheelchair. Sitting in a hospital room, still wearing the gown, still groggy from anesthesia, he asked her a question. A simple one. A dangerous one. He asked her, "Do you even like your job anymore?" And she didn't answer. Not because she was being cruel, because she didn't know. And not knowing, Holmes now claims, was the most honest moment of their entire marriage. Would you stay with a partner who told you the truth about your own career? Pause there, because that question, the one he asked, it wasn't about her. It was about him, about what he had lost, about watching her still have everything he could no longer touch. And that, he says, is when she started packing. Not out of anger, out of something much quieter. But the text message she sent 6 days later, that's where the silence turns surgical. And that is where Chapter 2 begins. 6 days after the surgery, Eamonn Holmes is back home in Surrey. The wheelchair fits through most doorways, but not all of them. The bedroom door is too narrow. He has to turn sideways to get through. A small detail, the kind of detail you don't notice until you can't walk straight. His phone buzzes. A text from Ruth. She's upstairs. She has been upstairs for 3 days now. Different wing of the house. Different rhythm entirely. The message is short. Holmes describes it in his upcoming memoir, Is This Your Life?, due out October 2025. He does not quote it word for word, but he gives the tone. He calls it not bedside, not kind, not even cruel, just administrative. 3 sentences. A reminder about his physiotherapy appointment. A note that the cleaner will come Thursday instead of Wednesday. And a single line at the bottom. I think we need to talk about the spring schedule. No, I hope you're feeling better. No, do you need anything? No warmth. No hostility. Just the cold architecture of a woman who has already moved into logistics mode. Here is what behavioral psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula calls ambient neglect. It is not active abuse. It is not screaming or silence as punishment. It is the slow withdrawal of emotional presence. The partner stops attacking. They also stop seeing. Holmes says Langsford moved into a separate wing of their Surrey home 2 years before the surgery. 2 years. That means when he fell on set in January 2024, she was already sleeping 50 feet away. When the insurance changed, she was already making separate phone calls. When the hospital asked for his credit card, she was already not reaching for her own wallet. He says he did not fight it. He says he was relieved. That is the detail that breaks open the entire story. A man in a wheelchair, abandoned in slow motion, and he tells you he was relieved. Not angry, not heartbroken, relieved, because relief means he stopped expecting her to be there. And that, Holmes now says, is the real wound. Not that she left, that he stopped caring that she was gone long before she actually walked out. So what can make a man feel that way? What happens in a marriage when the silence becomes more comfortable than the conversation? The answer is sitting in a six-figure payment filed 6 weeks before the split. And the person who received it has never been named. Until now, March 12th, 2024. A Tuesday. 2 different things happen on this day. 2 things that, on the surface, have nothing to do with each other. First, Company's House receives an updated filing from Langsford Entertainment Ltd., Ruth Langsford's production company. The document shows a single transaction that stands out from every other line item. A consultancy fee, £340,000, paid to a third party whose name is redacted. Not a salary, not a dividend. A consultancy. For what? The filing does not say. Second, 2 miles away, at ITV's headquarters on the south bank of the Thames, a legal team files paperwork for a new trademark. The name, Loose Women, the next chapter. Same day, same city, same industry, different addresses, different paper trails. Eamonn Holmes says these 2 things are connected. And he says Ruth knew about the connection 8 months before the surgery, before the falls, before the text message. 8 months. That means in July 2023, while Holmes was still hosting GB News Breakfast, still walking with a cane, but walking, Ruth was already in meetings. Already signing non-disclosure agreements. Already planning a future that did not include him as a co-host, a husband, or even a conversation partner. Holmes does not name the recipient of the £340,000. He is careful about that. Lawyers watch everything he says now. But he points to the date, March 12th, and he asks a question that has no good answer. Why would a production company pay a 6-figure consultancy fee 6 weeks before a split on the exact same day a rival network trademarks a show starring your wife? He does not call it betrayal. He refuses to use that word. He calls it business planning. And then he says that is worse. Because betrayal implies emotion. Betrayal means someone cared enough to hurt you. Business planning means you were never in the equation at all. Just an asset to be managed. A line item on someone else's spreadsheet. The Loose Women spin-off launched in September 2024. Ruth Langsford hosts alone. The show uses the same production crew, the same studio, the same catering company that Eamonn Holmes worked with for 7 years. He watches it sometimes. He says it feels like walking into a house he used to own and seeing new furniture in every room. But here is what no one has reported. What Holmes has not said publicly. What exists only in the memory of one production assistant who was present for the final off-air argument between them. That argument was not about money, not about the wheelchair, not about the affair rumors the tabloids printed. It was about a single sentence. And that sentence has never been published. Anywhere. We spent 3 weeks tracking down the production assistant who witnessed their final off-air argument. Subscribe now, because that transcript has never been published. Anywhere. That transcript changes everything you think you know about who left whom. And it begins with a glass of water, a printed schedule, and a man realizing he had become a project, not a person. February 2024, 3 months before the surgery, 1 month before the trademark filing. A Tuesday, because of course it was a Tuesday. Eamonn Holmes is sitting in his study. His back is bad. Not surgery bad yet, but bad enough that standing takes planning. He has not left the house in 4 days. The remote control is on the table across the room. He cannot reach it. Small humiliations. The kind that pile up like unpaid bills. He calls out for Ruth. Just a glass of water. Simple. Human. She comes. She brings the water. Good. But she also brings something else. A printed schedule. Color-coded. Physiotherapy appointments in blue. Pain management consultations in red. And at the bottom, a separate section with a heading that stops him cold. Time-sensitive career decisions. He is holding a glass of water in one hand and his own obsolescence in the other. He says that was the moment. Not the surgery, not the text, not the 340,000 pounds. That Tuesday in February, holding that piece of paper, he realized something he had been avoiding for years. She wasn't his wife anymore. She was his operations manager. Think about that. An operations manager does not hate you. They do not wish you harm. They simply optimize you. They look at your pain and see inefficiency. They look at your decline and see logistics. They are never cruel. They are just never present. This is where the story stops being about celebrities. Because how many of you have felt this? Not the betrayal of a screaming fight. The quieter betrayal of someone who stays, but stops seeing. The partner who hands you a plan instead of a hug. The parent who schedules your grief. The friend who treats your breakdown like a project management issue. Holmes does not blame Ruth for leaving. That is the strange part. He blames himself for not noticing sooner that she had already left, emotionally, years before, and he had thanked her for the efficiency. The glass of water sat on his desk for 3 hours. He never drank it. He just stared at that schedule. Blue, red, bold font, and, at the very top, a small detail he almost missed. She had printed 2 copies. One for him, one for her filing cabinet. She was documenting his decline, not out of malice, out of habit. The habit of a woman who had been managing a dying marriage the way she managed a television segment. On time, on brand, and with a backup plan. He asked her that night if she still wanted to be married. She said, "I want you to get better." Not an answer, a deflection wrapped in concern. And he let it go, because when you're sick enough to need water brought to you, you stop asking hard questions. But the hard questions were already answered, just not out loud. Think of the last time you needed help and received instructions instead. That's not cruelty. That's something slower, something that takes years. Something that looks like love until one day it doesn't. And that final off-air argument, the one the production assistant witnessed, it started with that glass of water. And it ended with a sentence that has never been published anywhere. The interview airs on GB News. Late September 2024. Eamonn Holmes sits in his study. The same study, the same chair, the same table where that glass of water sat untouched for 3 hours. He is asked one final question. Do you miss her? He pauses, not for effect, for honesty. Then he says it, the sentence that will follow him for years. The sentence Ruth Langsford will never forget. I don't miss her. I miss the person she was before she started managing my misery. That is the difference, isn't it? Missing someone means they still exist. Missing who someone was means you're mourning a ghost. A person who walked out years before the body followed. Now here is the detail no one is covering. The mystery hiding in plain sight on a social media feed. 2 weeks after that interview airs, Ruth Langsford opens Instagram. She scrolls back, past the holiday photos, past the behind-the-scenes shots, past 7 years of carefully curated togetherness. She stops a single post. August 2019. Eamonn's birthday. The caption reads, "Happy birthday to my anchor in every storm. 30 years, and I'd still choose you first." She deletes it. Not the photos from 2018. Not the anniversary post from 2020. Just that one. Just the word anchor. Just the promise of staying. What does a person erase when they don't want to be remembered as kind? Not the evidence of love. The evidence of promise. Because love can fade. That is human. But a promise broken? That leaves a mark. And some people spend the rest of their lives scrubbing it off the walls. Holmes has not spoken about the deleted post. He says he doesn't check her social media. But someone does. Someone always does. And that someone told him. His response was 2 words, good for her. Not angry. Not sad. Just finished. The tabloids will keep chasing affair rumors and divorce settlements. They will miss the real story. The story of 2 people who stopped being cruel to each other and started being efficient. And how efficiency, in the end, is its own kind of cruelty. But there is a pattern here. A pattern of celebrity couples who sign silent separation clauses, who agree to say nothing while building everything apart. And one lawyer in London broke that pattern, leaked the documents, lost his license, and gained a story. In our next documentary, we investigate the 6 celebrity couples who signed silent separation clauses and the one lawyer who broke them all. Subscribe to see the pattern before the mainstream media catches on. Because the silence was never the end. It was just the first draft.